What's up, YouTube? What's up, everyone? I hope you're fine wherever you are today. What are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about a Black American brother who kind of is not happy about African Americans leaving the United States going to Africa, and so he gives some sentiments, but that I believe that we also need to talk about at some point. He gives his reasons, and I think it is fair enough for us to listen to his reasons as to why he is telling Africans not to go to Africa. Well, it is important to always listen to two sides of the story. I'm going to give my side of the story, but first, let's listen to his part of the story.
I broke down how they took our lands, when they took our lands. I even gave you verbatim government documents, time periods, and all. There's no excuse. And all those people that's yelling and screaming, talking about Africa this, Africa that, go there. We not stopping you. Go to Africa. Go live there. See if you can blend in. Ain't gonna be nobody standing there, welcome my brother, or you are American. There's no problem. Everything you need is here. Everything you need. Follow me. Ain't gonna be nothing like that, Slim. You gotta get in where you fit in, just like everybody else out there. You think it's gonna be a way better living in Africa? They fooled the people like that went on ahead and agreed with the American Colonization Society. They made pretend like it was gonna be a better way of living in West Africa because certain parts were not fully populated, but they were fully colonized. Oh, you gonna leave one colonized land to another one and think that's gonna be a better way of living? That's why it was less than 15,000 of them that went. Everybody else was like, kick rocks. What Negro problem?
So guys, first, there is this big problem that we're having amongst, I don't know if I'll call it a problem or something, but there's this confusion that we're having, we as Africans, African Americans, people call themselves Black Americans. I respect that because they have these say that they are the aboriginals, they existed in the United States. I respect that, but there's so much things that we need to talk about that. So let's just talk about the brother who is a Black American. I believe he believes himself that he is an aboriginal. I respect that, as I said earlier. But now the problem comes when the brother is trying to not make African Americans come to Africa. Let's just be reasonable, okay? It is true that Africa was colonized by the European countries, and at some point Africa, we are still under that colonization, and that sums up to the problems that we are facing as Africans. So when an African American leaves the United States to come to Africa, we believe that it's not gonna be easy, it's not gonna be easy. But the fact is one thing. The fact is this. The fact is you can't compare the life in Africa with the life in the United States. In the United States, we have many Black folks in the United States, right? In Africa, the majority of people are Black. They are native Africans. So this means that if in the United States you're dealing with systemic racism, in Africa you're not going to deal with that. A person is telling you that we Africans, we won't invite you. Tell you today, take statistics. Ask African Americans or ask Black Americans who have come to visit Africa. Let them give you their perspective about how Africa normally invites people. The brother mocks African Americans who wants to come to Africa. I got no problem with African Americans or with Black Americans who don't want to come to Africa. They have their personal reasons, and some are valid as to why they don't want to come to Africa. But why mock? Why try to interfere with those who have made their mind, those who have understood that Africa is their motherland and they want to come to Africa? Stats has it that most black men in the United States are so depressed. Can you deal with that in the United States? Just a question. When African Americans come to Africa, this is their motherland. We call ourselves the Alkebulan. This is the mother of nature. This is the mother of life. It is in Africa. And not only African Americans or Black Americans are coming to Africa. Asians, Chinese, different people are coming to Africa and they're seeking homage here in Africa. I think the brother doesn't understand one thing. Africa today, we are having discussions which people were never so open to talk about. Things to do with corruption, things to do with neocolonialism, things to do with the westernized cultures in Africa. We are talking about them today. So the question is that I'll return to the brother. Try to look at mortality rate in the United States and mortality rate in Africa, and then let's talk from there. Population in other parts of other continents, it's declining, but the African population very, very stable, which recording the increase in population, because of our weather, the foods that we eat, and generally the African lifestyle. Africa hasn't still exposed to genetically modified organisms, the foods and all those things. People in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, we still dig, we still go to the farm, we still have our foods, our crops, which we have a long promised life here in Africa. Very, very productive women, very, very productive men. In the United States, men are so stressed because they gotta cope with finances, they gotta cope with systemic racism, they gotta cope with a lot of crap which is happening in the United States. And the same thing, you can't compare yourself with an African man who lives in Africa, So I will say that it is myopic to mock African Americans who want to come to visit their motherland, because they've had enough. That's why they're leaving. They've had enough. If United States could have been showing a great future for these African American people, they could have lived. They couldn't have left the United States coming to Africa. Africa itself is recognizing this. African diasporans in the United States, the year 2019, they went to Ghana and say that, most of our people came from western part of Africa. Slavery and slave thing happened, and it's not their fault that happened. It happened. It was none of their fault. To blame, we could blame some of our African leaders, chiefs, kings. We have empires who sold slaves to, the colonizers or those people. One thing that you need to know is this: we Africans, we might have our differences, but trust me, the population which is coming back is understanding that we have African Americans who are our brothers and who we can coexist with. So back to my story. The year of return of Ghana, that's the year 2019, was to welcome African Americans. In as much as today Ghana is in shambles, everything which is happening today politically, but it did the best. It did what it can to welcome African Americans, because what was happening, or what is still happening in the United States, the youths are so depressed. The system is not so much promising. Papers means nothing. So tell me, most of people in America are afraid to raise their children in the United States because you are not even sure if your child will reach 25 years of age, if especially they are men. So black men in the United States are so endangered species. Where will they seek homage? They will seek homage in Africa. Brother who said these things, you might have points, you might have reasons to say that you don't belong to Africa. Talk about genealogy. For 400 years you've stayed in the United States. Your ancestor who lived in the United States in the past. But everybody knows that history knows the origin of a black person came to Africa. Due to evolution theory, some human beings left Africa and went to other places. Due to mutation, that's when we add white people, we add other races, because of the mutation. But the first species of human being is a black person, African. African is the motherland. That's why it's called the Alkebulan. So, with that being said, I don't know, guys, tell me what you think in the comment section about this issue, because why would somebody restrain you to seek homage where you believe you'll find peace? Look at the internet today. You'll find African Americans talking about how life in Africa has been good. Some has invested. In the United States, there's a stiff competition when it even comes to business investment and all those things. So just to say, this is a tenable situation. The brother could explain, but you can't explain the advantages that it has for African Americans who are coming to Africa. So you can't stop a person who has struggled for the past 40 years, a person who has struggled for the past 50 years, a person who knows why Africa holds a good future for them. So let African Americans be the ones who want to come to Africa. I respect you. You have all the reasons not to come to Africa. But for African American who wants to come to Africa, let nobody stop them, because the things that they are dealing with, especially in the United States, they're dealing with full of crabs, So just let them be. Just let them be, bro. Just let them be. Let them come to Africa. Let them have a bad experience in Africa. I believe it's not that worst as what's happening in the United States. Yeah. I'm saying this for a matter of fact. It is true. So guys, tell me what you think in the comment section about this issue. Would you rather be in the United States or come to Africa? Of course, there are some challenges that will come with you coming to Africa. Especially, you need to know that Africa has 54 countries which speaks different languages, different ethnic groups, but we are Africans. We are one people. So if you choose to go to Tanzania, if you choose to go to Uganda, if you choose to go to Ghana, if you choose to go to South Africa, if you choose to go to Burundi, if you choose to go to Gambia, you need to understand that it will come with some challenges. But at the end of it, there is a reward. The reward for you is you took your time to learn the African culture. You took your time to learn the country's language that you are in. You took your time to interact with the locals in Africa. After a span of 6 months to 1 year, you'll start receiving the rewards of staying in Africa, of being resilient to all these obstacles that happen to you while you are still new in Africa, while you're still new in the continent, while you're still new in the African country that you went to. So I don't buy any narrative that a person will come and tell fellow black people who they know how they're struggling with back in the United States not to come to seek homage in Africa. Doesn't work like that. Guys, tell me what you think in the comment section. This is Eugene from Kenya. This is Eugene Docu Stories. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. You can consider subscribing to my channel on my way to 4K subs. I'll really appreciate if you help me reach there. Salute.